How's it going, guys? So today in the PhantomCave YouTube channel, we're going to be having a look at a momentous occasion in the channel's history. We've got some historic books to have a look at. We've got some foreign books to have a look at. And this, of course, will coincide with the second episode in my podcast, The Fan, and that will be coming out probably this week. So in this sort of clip, we're going to be having a look at some very historical French foreign comics and some English American comics. So this again is Fratelli Spada goodness, and this was sent to me by a good chap called the Phantom. I've been actually trying to keep this under lock and key for a little bit so I can try and surprise you with some great historical sort of books. And obviously I've got two French sort of comics, and obviously, as I said, they were sent to me by probably a good friend called the Phantom Fan, and he has loads. He has a lot of information. You can go check out his website. I'll put the link in the description below, and let's get into it. So there's probably one Phantom story in this comic, and these are from the 1980s, just before the late 70s, I think that is, 1979. And once again, we see a very famous sort of Phantom story, and a lot of it is because we see the Three Bandits, and that story has been published a lot of times, I'll tell you that right now. But a lot of the stories in this book are either colour or they're black and white. They're either the same or colour or black and white, and I reckon they've been transformed into another sort of world. They've been transformed into another language, which is pretty damn cool. I like it how we see people in the community like me, and you see sort of different personalities of the Phantom. You see different sort of language being used in the Phantom, and because it's foreign to me, I don't actually know much French, but I don't know much, but it looks, and I think I may have read it at some point, The Three Bandits, but again, it also has some other cool stories in it, and it actually has, as I was saying, black and white stories as well. So as we're going through these couple of books, I would like to give my appreciation to Phantom Fan. He's a big supporter of this show, and I'd just like to thank him for sending these to me, and yeah. And if any time I get to meet him, I'm sure he will quite like to do things with me in the future, but obviously because of privacy reasons, he doesn't actually like people looking at his or showing off his collection. But that's okay. Not everyone has to show off their collection, but that's okay. And a lot of these stories in this comic are actually, there's like an Rip Kirby sort of Agent X9 story in one of those books. It's a lot of historical sort of points of view in this book, and lots of it has obviously been turned into a different language, and it has been good. What else do we have here? So we have Big Ben Bolt. I'm guessing that's sort of he's a wrestler, I guess, a boxer or something, and he's we got colour as well. Sometimes I know a lot of people think that Australia's Phantom is basically back in the black and white era, but sometimes we get to see things in colour. It's not very often we get to see things in colour, but it's very good to see things in black and white. I like sort of my personal understanding of black and white is that I like black and white because it gives a bit more dramaticness to it, gives a bit more drama to it. It basically brings out, like, I'll say this, it'll bring out the shadows and the highlights a bit more than you do in the colours. The colours, they can be alright, I guess, but seeing things in black and white is sort of appeals to me a bit more. But probably the only sort of story that I really, really enjoyed in probably the last 3 years or 4 years was The Full Circle, by illustrated and written by Lou Mena. And he will be coming on the show very soon. He's sent for his stuff, so that will be happening. And as we all know, there's this old ad we're just having a look at, and it's a French special of Mandrake. So how cool is that? And then we have stuff to do with the cheetahs, which isn't my favourite animal, but again, my favourite animal obviously is the meerkats. If you didn't know that, it's the meerkats. Again, we have a Phantom story and a few others. It's quite, I quite like how magnificent these books are in. They're quite very good. In like retrospective, they're good. In quality, they're very good. And a lot of else. So like I was saying, we have Agent Secret X9, a Liberation Day Jack Herrick. Now this character, I don't know too much about, but like I was saying, we have black and white. Now, like I was saying, in black and white, we see a lot more than, well, my opinion is that I see a lot more detail in black and white than you'd see in colour. So you could call that colour blindness, but black and white appeals to me a bit more, and it brings out the shadows and the highlights. And the story we're having a look at right now is the Crisco Kid. Now, I don't know too much about this story, this character, and I think we've got Rip Kirby, Lee President Desmond. It's half black and white, half colour. It's pretty cool. Haven't read this story, don't even have any Rip Kirby sort of stories in my collection, so that was pretty a surprise. And then we have a Mandrake Magician ad, we have some bees on the back cover, and now this was quite a surprise to actually find that the Phantom fan actually had this. But I quite like how Moonstone did their covers, how they did crossovers between Captain Action and the Phantom and our other characters as well. I don't know too much about Captain Action, but we will be having a look at this book in the future, and it's a great sort of thing to have in your collection. Obviously, this is issue 1 of the Moonstone books, and it's quite cool. The next actual book we're going to be having a look at is the Venture books. So, the Phantom Mysteries. So, I think this is by Budget Books. So, it is in black and white, and it has, I think, 2 or 3 stories. Now, I've said this many times on this sort of clip to go with the podcast that will be coming out soon. I love seeing like Seymour Barry, Lee Falk's like wording, and a lot of others, and Ray Moore, Wilson McCoy's like black and white sort of editions of the stories. Now, back in the old days, we would have seen black and white especially in the few Phantom comics. We would have seen black and white back in those days, and the reason why is because I don't think they had that many good color printers back in those days, because we're talking, the Phantom only came around in the mid 30s. He made it into the newspapers in, I think, a couple of years after his debut by Lee Falk. But he actually went in color in, I think, the late 30s. So that was 1939, he went in colour in the newspaper strips. And again, we will be having a look at this book in further detail on probably another, like a review of something sort next year. And I hope you enjoyed this sort of clip to coincide with the podcast that will be coming out very, very soon. And there we have it. We have 3 books that basically determined what the Phantom was. And they included probably 2 or 3 stories each. So this book is number 4 in the series. I haven't actually seen this actual book anywhere. I've looked. So it's quite pleasurable to have this sort of book in my collection now. We will be having a further look at these books in the future. And as always, keep Phantom Caving. And if you want to, you can subscribe down below. And as always, keep Phantom Caving. We'll see you